Hello, hello.
Good morning or afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, good afternoon, Steve. Baby, welcome to the day. Hi, Jay.
Hi, everybody. Y'all look familiar. Didn't we
We
just
met
did
here
this?
before,
Jay, how's it going?
It's going great. I swear we just did this.
right?
It's good to see all of you again.
You too. Hold on, I'm just admitting everybody booming in real quick. So,
Christine, you're really doing us a disservice by not having your camera on. We can't see the disapproving look in your eye that way.
don't worry. I can give you a disapproving look at all times.
Yeah, I know that.
What's going on?
All right, it's 3 o'clock. You said we have about 40 people joining us, right, Christine?
We're about 24 right now, so
Wait a couple more minutes.
give it a second. Yeah. Oh, they're coming in.
I've got about a 30-minute introduction for Jay, so
Perfect.
Sweet.
Perfect.
started right now and leave 25 minutes for questions.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, it's really.
Okay.
I reached out to some elementary school friends, Jay. So
Oh, great. Oh, no.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, good. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, text it to me. If not, John might have it.
If you are having a side conversation, can you please mute your microphones? Thank you very much. All right. One more minute, Christine. What do you think?
You got it. Okay, you got a 36 right now.
No, that's pretty darn close. Let's go ahead and go. So, everyone, welcome to our quarterly marketing mastermind. And today we have Jay Mattern, CEO and former CEO of People Inc. Group and CEO of Villing and Company. Jay spent 36 years in the staffing industry. Lucky man. Under his leadership, People Inc. grew and had a compounded annual growth rate of nearly 12% and became the 35th largest staffing firm in the U.S. Part of that success came from a well-developed marketing strategy and solid execution. Jay is a firm believer in the power of marketing to turn an average company into a dynamic one, and his mission is to bring that passion to his clients. He is a CSP recognized by SIA as one of the 100 most influential people in the staffing industry in North America in 2018, 2019, and 2020. Jay, what have you done since then? But without further ado, I want to turn it over to Jay, and Jay's going to solve all of our marketing and sales challenges today, he promised. So really excited for it. All right, Jay, table's yours.
Okay.
Okay, I have made you the host. If you would just continue to try to admit people as they come in. We've hit 42, but there might be a couple stragglers.
All right, so I'm going to share a screen. You did turn over to me?
I did.
Okay, I'm looking for it. Oh, wait a minute. Got a couple of people here needs to come in. Okay, I don't see the presentation. Oops.
You know, from Charlotte, I know there's some really good, talented karaoke people on the call today. Maybe we could all start enjoying a song. Do you want me to maybe a little Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline? Who's up for it?
I'm gonna pull it up on my end if y'all don't mind.
Steve, you start us off.
Da 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 da.
Da, 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 da.
It's an affiliated staffing group call.
And Just
Jay,
kidding.
don't feel bad, man. I work for a tech company and still have trouble with presentations at times. So
We're almost there. I'm just pulling it up on my end. And
Never had this problem when I used Lotus, Jay.
I hear you, man. Okay, where is it? There we go. Okay. You should be able to see it now, I hope. Can you see my screen?
We can.
All right. Oh, I still got people coming in. Oh, then I lost it. Hold on. Gotta get everybody in here.
The part of the case, attorney Martha says that it's not clear if Hunter even checked that box, and there may be some chain of custody issues.
Okay, so we got somebody who needs to mute there, I think. So let's start with commercials. We did this last time, but you all slept a bunch since then, and so have I. So let me humor me for just a moment. Let's kind of set the stage. Steve said some really great things. You know, I hear every time I hear that, I automatically think, gosh, is that really me? You know, this industry has just been really, really good to me, and I've been fortunate to be in it for as long as I have, and have found some success, but most of the success that I found was by doing it wrong. I mean, isn't that how we learn how to do it right? And so a lot of what I'm going to go through here is, you know, things that I've learned over the years of having done this for so long. So yeah, it was 32 years with People Inc. Oh, somebody else coming in. Hang on a second. A few more people in. Welcome. And as Steve said, I was with People Inc. Co-founded that company back in 1987. There was no AI then, by the way. Well, actually, AI started in 1950, in case y'all didn't realize that, the first AI. But there weren't any computers, there weren't any cell phones, there was nothing when we started. And we grew it over the years to nearly 400 million. As Steve said, we were number 35 on the SIA list. The way I often like to say this is, I'll tell you in 30 seconds or less, my entire 32-year career in staffing. So I co-founded a staffing company. I grew that staffing company. Then I sold the staffing company. Oh, then I bought it back. Then I grew it some more. Then I sold it again. Then I bought a marketing company. There, that's my career in a nutshell. But over those 32 years of being in staffing, again, I've learned a lot. Pre-digital, post-digital. We're going to talk about that too, by the way. What impact the digital world has had on staffing and particularly on marketing. Again, on SIA's top 103 times, I'm very, very fortunate to have been on that list, because if you've seen that list, there are a lot of very impressive staffing people on there. The company, by the way, hit the Inc. 500. Well, now it's the Inc. 5000. We've hit that chart 4 times early on in our history, so that we're very, fortunate to be able to be recognized that way. And our growth came both organically and through acquisition. So had fun growing, from market to market, and had fun doing some M&A stuff. That's really about the only way you can get to 400 million over a certain period of time that we were around. It's awfully hard to do it just organically. Terra Firma. So Terra Firma, what about Terra Firma? Well, we provide simple, effective, and manageable marketing solutions just for y'all, staffing industry, period. What do we do? Well, we design and develop and then support websites. So we create new websites for our clients. We work with our clients on their branding for both their client side as well as their candidate side. We do have 2 sets of customers, right? We work on their social media and manage their social media platforms, provide them with, original content and curated content. Lead generation programs. So we help them, and we're going to talk a lot about this. That's really much of what we'll talk about today, is a program that gets you some, not just leads, but qualified leads. And then marketing collateral. And of course, there's not much print going on anymore these days. I know that we do have marketing print material that we carry around sometimes, but the vast majority of it, again, has become digital, but it is very important. It's supporting an overall marketing and sales campaign. So they often tell you, now I'm not a professional speaker by any means. You probably figured that out from the last time I was there as well as so far. But professional speakers often talk about the objective or their approach when they make a presentation. And what they say is they're going to tell the audience what they're going to tell them, and then they tell their audience, and then they tell their audience what they told them. So I'm going to kind of follow that format because that's worked really well for me, and it helps to drill down on the material a little bit more. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to talk about Terra Firma's definitions of sales and marketing. So I kind of have my own definition. I don't think you'll find it to stray too far from what you might see in Webster. Some of the common misconceptions about marketing and staffing, really about misconceptions about staffing, about marketing, period. There's a number of them, and I think we need to dispel those misconceptions so everybody understands what the true the essence of marketing and marketing in the staffing world is. Then we'll talk about an effective marketing program and how that drives revenue growth and how that satisfies clients as well as candidates, their needs and their desires. Then we're going to talk about how do we align these two functions. You know, for those of you that have multiple branches and a corporate location, I know that everywhere I've ever, any company, staffing company I've ever worked with, or worked for, my own included, there's always kind of there's tension between the corporate office and the branch offices, right? The branch offices think they know everything. The corporate office thinks they know everything. And so there's this constant bit of tension. And I've noticed the same thing between the sales and marketing functions. For staffing companies that have marketing departments, you know, I've found that tension, just like that tension that you often have between, you know, the field and the corporate operations. So we're going to talk about how do we bridge that gap? How do we bring those two functions together and make them work synergistically? Then we'll talk about a real simple 3-step marketing plan. As I said, Terra Firma is all about keeping things simple. That's always been my mantra, and it'll continue to be so throughout this presentation. Then we'll look at a real high-level view of the entire marketing process, again, related to staffing, and then we'll wrap it up with any questions you might have. Of course, questions are, you know, welcome along the way as well, so don't feel like you need to wait till the end. All right, so I love this chart. I use this chart just about every time I talk about sales and marketing together like this. And if you just focus on that inverted triangle for a second, we'll bring in those two sides in just a moment. But the sales process really can be conveyed in this inverted triangle, right? So if you start about at the top where it's white, you know, that's unawareness. So you're always struggling to get from being unaware in the marketplace to becoming aware in the marketplace, right? To at least, oh, somebody just came in and messed up my chart. There we go. So you're trying to get from being unaware to being aware, and again, just the sales process, right? And then from there, we want that prospect to at least have some interest. And then from there, we'd like to have some consideration or the factor, right? And then from there, we'd like to say, well, now there's some intent. I think I need to check into this a little bit further. These guys sound like they have the solution that I might need. And then from there, it's about, you know, making the presentation. The sales team is in front of someone, providing them with information. And as a result, there's some evaluation from the prospect taking place. Somebody else just jumped in and messed me up again. And then, of course, from there, we get them to sign on the line, which is dotted, right? So that inverted triangle represents the sales process just all by itself. Now let's bring the marketing and sales functions in here together. And so when we think of then, I'm thinking in terms of kind of the pre-digital period, if you will, and then now as the post-digital period. So if you look at then, or prior to, you know, internet, digital, all of the tools we have now, social media, all those things, marketing really had a very limited role. And the role for marketing was to come from that white space where you're completely unknown to the prospect or to the market, to where you're at least on the radar screen. So they've at least heard of you. Then from there, to marketing's role was, well, let's get them a little bit more interested. So they're aware, but let's let them have some interest and want to know a little bit more. But without the digital tools we have now, that's really kind of where marketing left off. And then sales role was to take it from there into consideration and intent and the evaluation process and then closing the deal. But then we bring in some of the digital tools we have and email and internet and all of the things we have now. And as you can see, the marketing function has expanded pretty dramatically in that whole sales process. So now we're not just talking about, coming from unaware to being aware and then developing a tiny little bit of interest and then handing it off to the sales team. Now it's really the marketing role, the marketing function, if it's done correctly, really takes that all the way from unawareness all the way into somewhat into the evaluation period, and then hands that off to the sales team, who then comes in and sits down, provides information and makes the presentation, gives them a proposal and a quote, and then closes the deal from there. So you can see that there's been a huge impact on how marketing supports the sales process just through a lot of the digital tools and the various factors now that have come into play in our digital world that we have now. So, but I think that's a great view of how marketing has evolved from its limited role to the expansive role that it has now.
Unplug the drain in there again.
Let's move on here. So now I want to show it to you in a straight line, kind of the same thing we just talked about. So you're starting out completely invisible in the marketplace. From their marketing role,
because you don't like the mouth guards they have.
Marketing role.
Somebody you have, because I don't got it.
So we're going from invisible to visible, and then from visible,
Sorry.
we're becoming noticeable.
One moment. Caitlin, can you please mute your microphone, please?
Yeah, I can't see who's talking. From noticeable to interesting. Now we've become interesting to the prospect, right? We become visible, then they noticed us, and then we've hit the radar screen, right? They're interested. And then if we keep, pushing this angle and we keep moving forward with our content and our communication, there's some compelling reason for them to carry on. And ultimately, you're trying to get to a point where they just can't ignore you anymore. So that's kind of a straight line of what we talked about in that previous slide. So going from invisible to you just can't be ignored. And that if everything works right and everything falls into place, that's exactly what will happen. Now, that's not the real world though, is it? Sometimes it doesn't, we don't make it there, but that's the objective, is to go from there, from 0 to 60. Well, how does marketing do that? Well, there's the big M marketing with a capital M, and then there's marketing with a little m. When I talk about the marketing with a capital M, I'm talking about the strategic part of marketing. And so here you're talking about having some insight into your why. I mean, everybody knows the what's your why, and that, the whole story behind how you determine not just what you're doing, but why you're doing what you're doing. And knowing about, understanding the inside of your own company, understanding the inside of your ideal customer and candidate, and understanding your competition, having insight into your competition, and then strategically thinking through your marketing process. So how do you position yourself against your competitors? How do you differentiate yourself with the unique value you bring to the marketplace? What's your pricing model? What are the verticals or segmentation? How are you providing the services? And what are you saying? What's the messaging? All of those things we consider to be very strategic. Then once we've done the big marketing with the capital M, and then we talk about how do we execute with the marketing with the lowercase m. And so now we're talking about some of the things that you're more familiar with. So your logo and generating leads, your website, your print and digital collateral, your social media platforms, going to trade shows, advertising, PR. All of those things then become the executional pieces that flow from your strategy. So, but it's really important. The reason these go from left to right is that obviously strategy always precedes tactics. And often we have to remind our clients that, they want to do something, and, we're all staffing people. We like to make things happen, but we also have to do it with a strategic intent. Perfect example of that. I had a client who reached out to me, and he has a chat bot, and he didn't know what to do with it. He said, I've got this chat bot, and we're really not sure how to use it. Or, well, how long have you had it? Well, I've had it almost a year. You've had it almost a year, and you really haven't used it. I mean, you don't know what to do with it, or how to deploy it, and how to get some results from it. Well, no. Well, why did you get it in the first place? Well, we got the chat bot because our competitor down the street has one. Well, that's that's putting tactics before strategy. So we told him to get rid of it, and he did. And we did some other things that I think were much more effective. But tactics always follow strategy. I think that's really important to make sure we have that. So let's define sales. Let's define marketing. These are the Terra Firma definitions. I don't think you'll find these too far off out of whack. But when we talk about marketing, the way we identify it is an organization with a product or service is moving the audience towards that organization. Or think of it in terms of pull. The marketing, the role of marketing as we define it is to pull the audience towards our staffing firm, towards our organization. Or another way to think of it is taking leads, or I'm calling them unqualified leads, but they're all leads, taking leads that have been generated and identifying out of that group who the qualified leads are. That's really marketing's top line responsibility. What about sales? Well, the sales role is pretty much the opposite. So now we're talking about the organization moving the audience towards it, or the organization with the service moving the organization towards the audience. So now we're talking more about push, right? Pull, we're talking about marketing, pulling the audience towards the organization, towards the staffing firm. But when we talk about sales, it's just the opposite. We're reaching out to the organization, right? We're pushing. It's more of a push effort. Or think of it in another way, taking that sales is responsible for taking those qualified leads and turning them into clients, right? Into customers. So I hope that sort of makes a clear delineation between marketing and sales. They're very different, and yet by the way we define them, they are essentially doing the same things, just in reverse. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let me give you marketing now in another way. I'll tell a little story. I always like to do this because I think it really, really kind of brings things home. So let's say that the circus is coming to your town. I know Barnum and Bailey is no longer. I think they've wrapped up, and I don't know if their circus is still around anymore. But this story, I think, captures the essence of marketing. So the circus is coming to your town, right? And we create a sign. We put signs all over in the town that says the circus is coming Saturday at 6 p.m., whatever. So we have these signs out. So we call that advertising. Well, then if you take another sign, and let's say we have the elephant, right? We take one of the elephants and we put the sign on both sides of like a sandwich board, right? We put it on the elephant and we walk the elephant through town. Well, now that's promotion. So we've gone from advertising to promotion. Well, now if we take that elephant and oops, accidentally he steps in the mayor's flower bed, right? And the newspaper then writes a story about that. Well, now we've got some publicity. And don't forget, good publicity, bad publicity. Often publicity is good. It's just how you use it, right? But at least you're known. So now we have publicity. So then we go to the mayor. We get the mayor to comment about the elephant going through the flower bed. If we do that, now we got some PR going, right? So we've gone from advertising to promotion to publicity to PR. Well, then if the result of all of that is the town people on Saturday at 6 p.m. show up at the circus with their wallets and their credit cards, and they spend money at the circus, and they have a great time, and they bring their friends, and the circus is wildly successful. We've generated revenue. Well, we'll call that sales. But wait for it. Here's the kicker. If that whole thing was planned, it sounds like it was very chaotic, right? If that whole thing was planned, that's the definition of true marketing. If you can pull that off, you've definitely pulled off a marketing, a successful marketing campaign for the circus. All right, so marketing misconceptions. We got to go through these because this is really important. Well, our logo is our brand. That's our brand. No, your brand is the logo is part of your brand, but your logo is not your brand. Your brand consists of much more. What is your message? Where do you, again, who are you saying it to, and where are you saying it? And all of the things that represent your brand. I often like to talk about the brand when I talk to clients about the 2 P's. And so there's 2 P's to your brand. There's presentation and there's perception. So when we talk about our brand, we're talking about, and again, it's sort of like we just talked about push and pull and push, but when we're talking about presentation, we're talking about how we present our brand to our marketplace, customers, clients, candidates. Presentation, that's one part of the brand, and that's much more than just the logo. It's how we say it, it's how we look, it's how we sound, it's how we speak in the marketplace. All of those things represent your brand. And then the second part is perception. Now, presentation, we have complete control over, right? We can present ourselves any way we want. We can do it strategically, or we can kind of sort of do it very chaotically. But whatever we do, we present our brand, and we have full control over that. We have no control over perception, though, and perception is how the marketplace perceives what we've just presented, right? How we've presented our brand. And so logo really, or our brand really is, again, logo is part of it, but it's much more than that. It's the total package that gets us from, and ideally, if we've done it right, once we get through the end of this, hopefully you'll see that what we're trying to do is make perception, presentation and perception line up. So if we do this right, if we say the right things, if we're talking to the right people, talking the right way, and doing it consistently, we're presenting ourselves in such a way that the perception will be close, if not exactly right on. But the brand, again, is much more than just logo. Another misconception, well, marketing is advertising. Well, advertising is marketing, but marketing is not just advertising. Kind of like our brand. Marketing is much more than that. We'll get into, all of the components of this here in just a little bit. Well, we're too small for marketing. We're just a little guy. Well, nobody's too small for marketing. You may not be able to, execute at the level of maybe a $1 billion, $2 billion, some of those guys at the top of the list, right? But anybody can execute a marketing program, strategic marketing program, and tactically execute at whatever level they have and whatever budget they have. It's not impossible to do that. Great marketing delivers fast results. Okay, this one, I had to learn this the hard way because, again, I come from staffing like all of you. We all like to make things happen. We don't have a lot of patience. We want to see things happen right now, right? That's the epitome of staffing people, and I love that about all of you. But I had to learn this lesson because I kept, I was working with a marketing firm it's the marketing company that I bought was actually my marketing consulting firm when I was at People Inc. And I kept telling them, well, nothing's happening. Well, and they would come back and say, well, it's only been 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks. I mean, we should have new clients by now. Anyway, the long and the short of it is marketing is not a short-term effort. It is a long game. It requires dedication and focus and a commitment to the long term. I've learned that lesson well over the course of working with a marketing company when I was at People and seeing the results that we got, as well as, working with my clients now who I have to convince, hey, trust me, I know you'd like to have a new client next week, but it's not going to happen that way. But we will be able to show you progressively how things will improve if we do marketing and do it correctly. Well, I know somebody who can help me put something together. Well, again, don't try this at home. I tried that too before I brought in a professional marketing firm, and we thought we were doing marketing, and we really weren't. We were sort of, again, we put tactics ahead of strategy, and there wasn't any consistency to it, and so we were firing a lot of bullets, but we weren't hitting anything. And so it's really important, especially I hear this a lot with websites. Well, I'm talking to a prospect and they need a new website, but I know a guy, it's down the street and he builds websites in his basement of his parents' house. And I just shake my head and say, you know what? Here's my number. Call me after that when you get that done, because it's going to have to be fixed. And more often than not, I do hear from them. So it's a very professional effort, and there's a certain way to do it and do it correctly to get the optimal results. Well, marketing is only good for generating new customers. No, not just new customers. That's certainly one part of it. But what about expanding your wallet share with your current customers? Marketing is good for that too. Just because they're a client and they know you, you can go from good to great with a certain marketing effort targeted towards current customers or candidates, generating candidates as well. Social media is for millennials, well, or Gen Z or whatever. Put your youngsters in there. Well, it's not. I wish that were the case. I mean, I hear that a lot from some of the old school folks in staffing. And, I had to learn this lesson as well. Social media, it's being deployed, folks. We're all in it. I think you all understand that, and you're all pretty well invested in some platform, at least one, and using it to some degree. I think probably in some cases, we're probably not using it as effectively as we should, but at least we're there. But this social media is, I mean, it is a critical component of your marketing program. Old school marketing is dead. No, old school marketing is not dead. Old school sales is not dead. This is a people business. You know, the essence of marketing we talked about earlier, some of those old school things are just as good as what about mail? What about using snail mail? What about you know, campaigns, mail campaigns? We've done some of those for clients. They've been very successful. That's old school. Well, you know, we have to convince the client or our staffing client that, you know, hey, people still get mail. Whether you know, I don't know if you realize that or not, but they do have a you know, a post office box. They do get mail. They have an address. And you know, if no one else is doing it, sometimes that, you know, going in the opposite direction pays off great dividends. Well, we have a website, it's just fine. Well, if your website is more than 18 months old, it needs to be adjusted and or maybe replaced. Because again, we're moving so quickly in this digital world we're in now that, you know, websites, there's a certain look and feel that you know, people, because everyone visits websites, I could say probably with 100% accuracy that you all can go, you could go to a website and visit anybody's website, and your immediate reaction would be, hey, this is a pretty good website, or this is a piece of, you know what? We all can sort of perceive a website that's easy to navigate, that has interesting content, that captures our attention, from one that looks like, well, where did this come from? I mean, it looks like somebody, you know, just slapped this together with a couple pictures and wrote something, and, you know, you can definitely spot the difference. So website is extremely important. We'll talk about this more about your how that fits into your overall marketing efforts. Well, how does marketing support sales and recruiting? Well, first of all, again, I mentioned this already, I'll say it again. It's extremely important that we have a consistent message, that we're saying the same thing across the organization, whether it's the sales team, whether it's our recruiters, whether it's you know, payroll and billing. Everyone should be consistent in what they're saying about the organization, and marketing helps determine what that messaging is, and then make sure that everybody communicates it consistently. Marketing should generate qualified leads. We talked about that earlier. Not just leads, but leads that fit the ideal customer profile, leads that have candidates who will fill the orders that we're generating, the verticals that we're in, the companies we're working for. All about qualified leads. Marketing will help advance and nurture qualified leads. So not just getting the leads, but, you know, again, it's a long game. If we generate a lead today, they're not going to buy tomorrow. Typically there's a process. Again, we'll talk about that. There's a process involved that gets them, as you'll recall, from invisible to unignorable. That takes time. There's steps that have to be followed, but marketing will take those leads and move them forward. Marketing should support the sales cycle and reducing that closing time, right? Again, if we're dealing with qualified leads that are more closely aligned with our ideal customer profile, you would suspect that the sales cycle would shorten, and it does. Same thing with your closing ratio. Again, if we have candidates who are more qualified with the ideal profile of our customer, you would suspect that we would, instead of closing maybe 2 out of 10, maybe we're closing 4 or 5 out of 10. That number will increase rather dramatically. Higher level of visibility. Again, back to the chart, going from being unaware to aware, or invisible to visible. And growing and generating brand identity strength. So, you know, not just saying not just your logo, not just people seeing your logo or hearing your company name, but what's the profile, what's the personality of this brand, and building the brand in the marketplace and getting a better perception, if you will, of the brand. And then candidates, you know, generating better quality candidates as well, not just more in the pipeline, but the right kind of candidates. So all those things should, if marketing's being done effectively and efficiently and you know, in a very organized fashion, all of these things should contribute. Well, why do we want sales and marketing aligned? Again, I've talked about how, you know, there's a kind of tension often between sales and marketing. So it may be obvious to say all of this, but you know, we want alignment because we want better quality leads, right? We want to target our profile better. We want to have leads that will improve our closing ratio, and you know, bring clients at more quickly, shorter time, shorter sales cycle as well. And then retention. So if we have better quality leads, they're more closely aligned with what the services that we provide and where we're strong. You would think that customers would hang around, and they're going to be less likely to, you know, fall off and go somewhere else over a pricing issue because we're providing true value. And faster growth, Sirius Decisions, and nothing to do with Sirius XM, but so it's a research organization. Did some research here not too long ago, and they were looking specifically at organizations where sales and marketing were aligned, were working together, functioning as one team, and they found that, you know, 19% faster revenue growth right out of the chart for those that were aligned versus those that weren't. The other interesting thing, though, is it wasn't just top line growth, but it was 15% more profitable growth. So bottom line improved as well. Again, if you're providing value and you're dealing with customers that fit your profile, you're going to be able to get your price targets. You're not just buying accounts. You're servicing accounts that are happy to work with you because you're in their niche. You're providing the services that really solve their problems. Well, what's this alignment look like? Well, first of all, it has to be aligned at the organization level. And this is all cultural, but the organization has to support at a cultural level the idea of marketing and sales being a single function, a team that works together. How's that done? Well, it's done through aligned leadership. So the leadership of the staffing firm, the leadership of the organization has to be fully on board with sales and marketing being aligned, and you know, having that expectation that that's the outcome that the organization is looking for, and that the leadership is driving towards. And then ultimately, then the sales and marketing functions, you know, alignment looks like communication, effective communication between the two. Not often we'll hear, you know, the marketing folks will say about the sales team when there's not alignment, they'll say, well, you know, we're providing good leads. These guys just can't close. So marketing will have that, you know, that will take that shot at the sales team. And then the sales team will fire back and say, well, these are crappy leads. We can't close these. Give us some better leads. So you're immediately, you know, you have two separate functions that aren't aligned and aren't communicating and aren't being held accountable solely for one outcome. So aligning the communication between the two groups, not just, you know, having a sales department and a marketing department, and they have different leadership. Ideally, you'd like to see leadership that's responsible for both those functions, and then you'd like to see accountability for both teams for the outcome. So, you know, if a sale is made, marketing and sales share in that success equally. So that's ideally what it would look like. All right, so how about a 3-step, real simple? I told you, you know, at Terra Firma, we like to break things down, keep them very simple, and things that, you know, you can pick up quickly and you can execute on. So let's look at the 3 steps here. So we've talked about strategy. Here I'm calling it planning. So the first step is think it through, have, you know, planning. Who are your audience? Who's your audience or audiences, both for your prospective clients as well as candidates? You're thinking about your verticals or industries that you're servicing. So who are they, first of all? And then once you understand that, well, how do we need to talk to them? You're going to talk differently to a candidate that you're looking for light industrial positions as opposed to, you know, more professional roles, right? There's going to be a different level of communication that's going to have to take place. So once you know who it is that you're targeting, then you'll know how to speak to them. And then once you know how to speak to them, then you have to identify where are they, what social media platforms or places do you find them? What communication channels? Where are they? Where can I speak to them where they will be able to see me and hear me? Then once you've done planning, then now we're going to start executing. We're going to tactically take what we've identified and start putting this all together. So through our marketing efforts, and I'll talk about that here on the next slide, we're going to start capturing really the 4 C's that I like to talk about here. I think that makes sense in execution. So capturing the lead. Then once we've captured a lead, we've gotten a new lead, we have to have a place to contain them. So, you know, whatever our software tool is that we're using to contain that lead. CRM, whatever the case may be. In some cases, there's specific marketing tools like HubSpot, things like that. But we've captured the lead. Now we want to contain it in a toolkit where we can then cultivate the lead. So back to our straight line, going from invisible to unignorable, we have to hit all of those steps to cultivate the lead that ultimately then some of them, not all of them, some of them will be able to convert that lead into a new client and or a candidate that we're able to place, right? So capturing the lead by knowing where they are, speaking to them in their language and speaking to them where they are. And then once we've got them, we contain them in our tool. Then we begin to cultivate, pour water on the seed that we've just planted. And then ultimately some of them will sprout, right? They will convert to a new customer. Then the third part, of course, is keeping the customer. That's extremely important and often the part that's given short shrift in marketing. But as you recall from our spring meeting a few weeks ago, we talked a lot about, there was a lot of talk about retention of clients. Very important. And so how do we do that? Well, by exceeding their expectations, continuing to exceed their expectation, looking for new ways to provide value, right? And meeting and exceeding those expectations. Increasing market share or wallet share. So looking for more ways that we can provide solutions to them, billable solutions to them. And then ultimately, developing some clients who then provide us with great testimonials. They become promoters. They help refer new accounts to us, new clients to us, new candidates to us. So that's ultimately the objective. So there's your real simple 3-step planning, execution, retention, and it just keeps going around in a circle for a very simple marketing plan. And then we do that right, again, 15% profitable growth, 19% top line revenue growth with a good solid alignment between sales and marketing. So here's what it looks like now if I lay this out in a 2-dimensional picture here, than what we just talked about. Excuse me. So you'll see at the bottom the 4 C's: capture, contain, cultivate, convert, along the line here of progression. But let's start over the left-hand side. So the brand, we've talked about the brand. It's not just the logo. There's a number of elements that come into play here that identify the ultimate brand of your staffing firm. And then we talk about the channels. How do we reach them? So there's a number of ways here to see traditional ads and marketing collateral and SEO and email marketing, lots of things, content marketing, lots of things that we do to communicate, to find them in those channels and communicate to them. So now we've captured the lead. They've come through one of these channels, if you will, and they fall into that lead circle. Now we have our tool that will contain them. So now we have a place to put them. Then what do we do from there? Well, then we begin to cultivate the lead. So we have a qualified lead, and then we have a marketing campaign or program over a period of time that is engaging and provides them with interesting and unique content and valuable information, and just over a period of time nurtures that lead to the point where we'd like to say and some of those we're going to be able to, and thinking through this from qualified leads all the way to promoters, there's going to be fall off here. Not 100% of these will flow through. We all know that, but the objective is we're doing this at a high level that our fall off will be minimal. That it would be much less than it would be if we didn't have a good solid marketing program to support this. So qualified leads, then from there, now we're in the sales process really here. Now we're able to sit in front of the client and make a presentation and come back with a proposal, and we've got a quote, and we're starting to talk numbers, and then of course from there we're some of those will be able to close. We'll have new clients, and then ultimately we want to look for some of those who will help promote us, and then you start all over again. Again, the other thing I think that's important to see that measure flow across there. Of course, there are ways that we want to quantify what we're doing. I think you all do a pretty good job of that. I'm sure you'll have ways to quantify how many sales calls you've made, how many presentations you've made, how many new clients you're converting on a weekly or monthly or quarterly or annual basis in terms of revenue and numbers, all of those. So it's really important to track this as you go through, because why? Well, because we're trying to constantly improve our efficiency there. So we're looking for ways that we can continue to close the gap and continue to do better in terms of how we're executing on our plan. All right, so some key takeaways. We'll have a little bit of time here for Q&A. One of the other things, before I do that though, one of the other things I noticed, I want to bring this in because I saw this just last week, and some of you I know are belong to staffing industry analysts, and many of you are on SA or ASA as well. But I saw this in SIA. It was it's their pulse survey that they do. I think they do it every week, or maybe it's I think it's every month. They do the pulse survey where they survey I think it's 200 staffing firms, something like that, a little less than 200 firms that are involved in this pulse survey. And they're essentially just looking to see, how is the industry tracking? There's also the Bullhorn survey. I think you've seen that. I think that one says we're down about 12 or 13% year over year, and we're flat basically week over week. Well, same thing with SIA. The pulse survey shows that just about everyone's down rather significantly. Nursing is down considerably, as you know what happened there pre-COVID or COVID and post-COVID. But the thing I thought was interesting here is that let me just read this. The pulse survey for April asked respondents what actions they took in response to the current challenging environment. Most common answer, cited by 55%, was increasing sales headcount. Okay, makes sense. It was followed by, listen closely, increased marketing spend, and then the third one, internal incentives for new business wins at 46%. So this is a pretty good testimonial for sales and marketing alignment, isn't it? The three things that these, actually it was 170, the three things that these 177 staffing firms said was, we want to increase our sales effort on the ground. We want to increase our marketing budget. So bringing us more qualified leads, because we'll have more sales headcount to be able to close these deals. And then internal incentives to incentivize the sales and marketing folks. If they're aligned, the incentive should be for both, right? Not just for sales. But if there's an incentive then to incentivize these two groups to work closely together and to improve the effort in terms of bringing in new clients. So I thought that was interesting, but I thought that was a very good example of, a discussion of sales and marketing alignment right there together. And that's really, what these staffing firms are saying is we need more sales effort, but we also need a better marketing effort as well. Because if we do those things together, as we've just talked here, I think we're going to see much better results. So I've told you what I was going to tell you. I've told you, now I'm going to tell you what I just told you. I'm actually doing what I said I was going to do, right? First thing, start where you are. I said that one of the misconceptions was, well, we're not big enough for a marketing program. Well, okay, you're big enough for your marketing program, for a marketing program. Maybe not the one that Recruit has, but who cares? You can do your own. You can start where you are. You can use what you have and work with what you have. But start where you are, but do something. Keep it simple. Again, I've said all the way throughout this, it doesn't have to be a complicated marketing program that only the marketing people understand. This has to be something that's simplistic enough that it's easily executable, and you can track it and you can see whether it's producing results or not, and everybody can understand it, and the marketplace can grasp it as well. Sometimes, the marketing folks are so smart, they're smarter than the folks that they're marketing to, and can often be communicating in such a way that it falls short. I mean, the market can't understand, can't comprehend what exactly is being said. I'm sure you probably have all seen a commercial here or there on TV where you're like, what just happened here? There's marketing folks that are probably too smart for their own good in some cases. So yet the marketing effort can be kept very simple and can still be very effective. Execute all the way to completion. So we talked about the graph in the last chart. It has to come all the way to the closer, right? To the closing. Get them to sign the line, sign on the line which is dotted. If there's a part of the plan that's broken or not working well, then we have to step in and we have to make sure that the transition from the brand to the capturing of the lead to the containing of the lead all the way through to closing the deal has to be executed and executed effectively. It's a joint effort. We can't just do marketing real well and not have a good sales effort, or we can't have great salespeople and not have a good full marketing effort. It has to be executed to completion and with excellence. Measure it all, measure everything going in, measure everything going through, measure everything coming out. I think we're all pretty good in staffing about measuring and quantifying what we're doing, but I can't state enough how important that is with the marketing effort, to look at the things you can look at to make sure that we're seeing improvement over a period of time. Again, this is a long game, so it's really critically important that we measure what we're doing, because it's not, we won't see the result next week. It might take 60 days, it might take 90 days, but you've got to be able to measure to see if we're moving things in the right direction. And then, build that foundation before you get, more complex or more, comprehensive in whatever it is you're doing in terms of your marketing and sales effort. Get that foundation, get a strong foundation, get the X's and O's fully developed before you want to go in and tweak things and try to turn things upside down. I've seen clients get ahead of themselves here, and they see some success and then want to really close the gap and jump on the part that's working. But again, it's think about what we looked at early on. It's a process that flows, and there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 steps that ultimately lead from not being even known to having a new client. And if you miss some of those steps, then you're not going to have a truly effective program. And as I've said, this is probably the most important thing. I had to learn this. It was not an easy lesson, but this is a long game. It's a process. It's not an event. It's not a one-off. It's a process that has to be executed, and you have to have patience in order to be able to stay with the program, and you have to be able to measure and see that you're getting results, that you're making the movement towards the ultimate objective, but that you at the same time realize this takes time, and this is an effort that you don't drop a seed in the flower pot and it doesn't sprout tomorrow. It takes time. So that's probably the most important thing I think that I would say here is be prepared to play the long game, and don't rush to judgment when you don't have a new client. You started your marketing program on Monday and you don't have a new client on Friday. That's probably a little short-sighted. So that's kind of the discussion, I think, on talking about the sales and marketing effort, how to align them, what a real simple marketing program looks like, and how you have to stay in it. So I think at this point, I want to step back, and do we have any questions? I guess I can go to chat here, or anybody have any questions they want to jump in?
Jay, as you go to that, I just want to thank you for all the time you took to put this together and the time to present. And I know there's probably some questions out there, so I'll turn it over to the group.
Grant.
I have a quick question. So with our organization, marketing sometimes can be gray. Like, we could do all these different efforts. It's content, it's social media, it's email campaigns, it's automations and journeys and text outreach. And sometimes it's really difficult to measure what is a result of a marketing effort. I didn't know if you had any suggestions there. Obviously, I've been in marketing for over 20 years, and I understand the value. I understand the long game. But do you have any suggestions on how to communicate the importance of marketing, and that it's not always black and white? Sometimes those results are a little bit gray because they might convert as a result of something else, but it's all the touch points that they've had over the previous weeks or months or years.
Kendra, great question. I get asked this all the time, and I always like to say, look over there, something shiny, because this is a really hard question to answer. I have the experience of sitting on the other side of the desk where you all are. And, my question when I had the marketing firm come in was, all right, I want to know the ROI here. If I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, what can I expect to come out the other end? And they had to say, well, it's not that easy. If you're My Pillow now, there's a promo code, right? Why do we have the promo code? Well, we have the promo code so they can figure out if what they're doing is resulting in hard dollars. Well, we're not able to do that often with what we're doing, Kendra. There's just no way to know. So instead of looking at a dollar amount, what we have to measure are some of the things that we're doing. Like, for instance, on our social media platforms, are we seeing growth in the number of followers that we have and the engagement level? I mean, and you know, Kendra, there are tools that are built into just about, well, there's tools built into LinkedIn, there's tools built into all of the social media platforms, and there's even add-on tools you can get if you want to even go deeper and further that will show you things like what's the engagement level and what sort of comments are you getting and how many more followers are you getting. And if you're doing an email campaign, you know, as you know, there's, you know, certainly the click-through rate that you can see how many people actually clicked on my content and then click through to the website and how much time did they spend there and where did they go. And so there are things like that you can look at to see if, and you can't look at one number and say, well, we're being successful or we're not, especially when it comes to marketing and some of these softer quantifiable things we have to look at. You have to look at them over a trend line. You have to look at them over a period of time. So when we started this campaign and what our objective was X, and now what we've seen, you know, at what we're seeing over a period of time is we are moving towards X or we're not moving towards X. And why is that? But I mean, I don't think I even answered the question, did I? It's a really hard question to answer. It's just
it is hard. And it's especially if they don't, like, for example, in an email campaign, they don't click and actually fill out that, that landing page. We'll find, for example, we sent out a campaign about one service. Somebody clicked on that link, but then requested information on another service and they converted. So we're like, that was a success, even though they didn't want the service that we were, you know, first trying to promote. They converted for something else. But yeah, it is tricky, especially with all the different efforts that we're doing.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, you can be pulling all these triggers in terms of marketing, and as you also said, and it results in the outcome is a sale. Well, was the sale a result of what we did, solely what we did in marketing, or was it solely what we did in sales, or was it a combination of the two? And, you know, you can even ask the client, the new client, well, how did you hear? And, you know, they'll say something and they may not even know why. That's the other subtle thing about marketing when it's done really well. It's, you know, it's a kind of a subtle, it's not in your face if you do it right. It's something that just sort of creeps up on a prospect, and before they know it, they're, hey, I need to work with these guys. So it's really hard to quantify that, isn't it? I mean, especially when your target doesn't really, you can't really say, well, you know what, as a result of that one thing I read on their LinkedIn or their website or whatever it was, that one email I got, some of them may be able to say that. The vast majority, though, if you're doing your marketing effectively, it's just it led them to you, and it did it in such a way that, you know, they didn't even realize it. Isn't this great fun? We're doing stuff. We're doing things that people don't even know we're doing. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, a good question. Thanks, Kendra.
I have a quick question as well. Thank you, Jay. This has been really helpful.
Thank you, Sarah.
Often when you're executing a long-term marketing strategy plan, you can kind of get lost in the day-to-day marketing activities and the tactical aspects of it. What recommendations or best practices can you offer for making sure that your marketing team stays results focused?
Well, how long-term is it? Let's start with that. Maybe it's too long.
A lot of our marketing plans are, you know, 6 to 8 months, a couple quarters.
Yeah. You might want to scale it back. I don't know. I think the question is, okay, let's work with what you've got. So 6 to 8 month campaign. Then build it. I'm sure you probably build in milestones, right? Every 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 weeks, or right. You have some milestones where you stop and say, where are we now? Does that help keep your team engaged?
Yeah, I think so, but also being able to see the day-to-day tactics through a strategic lens, to be focused on those results is sometimes challenging.
Mm-hmm. Well, so how do you handle that? What are you doing?
Yeah. Nothing very effective at the moment, but I think, you know, we're trying to keep people looking at the data and really focused on those, you know, we call them performance mile makers. And so we know exactly what we'd like at each spot, but sometimes it's difficult to see from a strategic this lens.
Yeah, again, because we're dealing with something that it's not easily quantifiable. I mean, if you're in sales, you can, hey, did I sell anything last week? How many people did I see? I can look at those numbers. It's very easy to see how I did. And I either tell myself, hey, I did really well, or I tell myself, I better get in gear. It's not so easy on the marketing side because and so I think part of it is that you just have to stay focused on the execution, and it's not so much the quantifiable part, but it's all right, we know we have to execute. These are the things we have to keep doing over a period of time. Let's make sure we're doing those and doing those as well as we can. And maybe part of the discussion when you're meeting with that team is to talk about how well are we executing? How do you feel about the content that we're providing? And I know we're going to look at the outcome here in our next milestone, but how are we doing right now in terms of what is it? How does it feel? And because a lot of marketing is just it's intuitive. It's a feel. You know if you're saying it right. You know if you're in the right place or not because of just how it feels in the intuition that you're getting. And if these are good marketing people, they'll have that feel. So talk to them in the way that they're able to respond in terms of how does this feel what we're saying, and do you feel like we're hitting in the right place, and do you feel like we're saying it often enough, and first of all, are we executing according to plan? You know, those kinds of things. But I think maybe it's just not trying to quantify it so much, but talk to them and where they are.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I think that's it for now. Does anybody have any last questions? Okay, Jay, thank you so much for today. And if you don't mind, I'll share your contact information with everybody as well when I share the slides and the recording. So thank you everyone for joining us. Steve said adios. But thank you again, Jay.
Thank you for having me. It's great seeing you all again, and I hope that you found some value in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great week, everyone.
All right.